All right, let's talk about the Arctic. But I want you to forget everything you think you know. Forget those images of a vast, empty, peaceful frontier of ice, because that picture, it's shattering. Right now, the top of the world has become the newest front in a global power struggle. So, we're diving into what this new polar order actually looks like. We're talking about a massive shift, not just in the climate, but in global strategy, in economics, and, you guessed it, in security. This quote just nails it, right? We are moving away from an era of cooperation and straight into one where military might and strategic location are everything. And hey, this isn't just some far-off geopolitical game. What happens in the Arctic is going to have ripple effects for all of us, from the cost of the stuff you buy to the security of your data online. Let's really break this down. It's a tale of two Arctics. The old Arctic was seen as this special zone, a place for science and collaboration. But the new Arctic? Oh, it's a completely different beast. It's all about intense competition and this revival of an old-school idea called mercantilism, where a nation's power comes from controlling trade and hoarding resources. The old rules, they just don't apply anymore. So, what does this really mean? It means that idea that the Arctic could somehow stay above the mess of global politics? Well, it's officially over. This is a huge, irreversible change, and it's turning a once peaceful region into a strategic chessboard. Now, let's get into the new name of the game, territorial mercantilism. This is a game where countries are using every tool they have, military force, economic power, to grab control of territory, shipping lanes, and all those valuable resources. Understanding this concept is absolutely the key to unlocking everything else we're going to talk about. So, who are the main players in this high-stakes game? Let's take a look at how the superpowers are making their moves on the ice. First up, the United States. They've got their eye on Greenland, seeing it as a strategic fortress that's just packed with critical stuff like lithium and rare earth minerals. But there's a huge catch. A whopping 85% of Greenlanders are against joining the US. And this tension is exactly why NATO has kicked off Operation Arctic Sentry, coordinating defense from a permanent base right there in Nuuk. Now, take a look at Russia's massive advantage here. They have 57 icebreakers. Some of them are even nuclear-powered, compared to just 10 for the entire US and its NATO allies combined. And these aren't your grandpa's icebreakers. Some are now called combat icebreakers, designed specifically to enforce Russian law along these new shipping routes. But Russia isn't acting alone here. They're teaming up with China, who now calls itself a near-Arctic state, to build what they're calling a polar Silk Road. And why are they doing this? Well, it's to solve China's Malacca dilemma, basically a dangerous choke point where 80% of its oil has to squeeze through one single vulnerable strait. The Arctic, it offers them a vital escape route. But look, this isn't just about military posturing. There's a huge economic pull driving this whole thing. Forget the Cold War, this is a full-blown gold rush for the 21st century. Just look at this number, 40%. That's how much shorter the trip between Asia and Europe can be if you use Russia's northern sea route instead of the Suez Canal. For global trade, that's not just a little improvement. That is a complete game changer. But here's the question. Would you risk it? Because this shortcut is basically a geopolitical minefield. Shippers are facing crazy high insurance costs, they have to pay hefty fees to Russia for mandatory icebreaker escorts, and there's the constant threat of getting caught in the crossfire of Western sanctions. Sure, it's faster, but is it safer? Probably not. And the prices go way beyond just shipping. We're talking about a treasure trove of critical minerals in places like Greenland that could help the West finally break free from supply chains dominated by China. And then there's the invisible gold, data. A project called the Far North Fiber is a 15,000-kilometer cable under the sea, creating a digital sanctuary for Western data by connecting Tokyo and London through a secure route under the polar ice. So with all this military and economic action, how are investors trying to play this new reality? Well, the melting ice is creating a brand new and very, very high-risk investment landscape. Investors actually have a new term for their strategy here: geography as a service. Think about that for a second. It's like owning the toll booths on a new global superhighway. The real value isn't just in what you pull from the ground, but in owning and controlling the infrastructure of these new shortcuts. You're literally betting on geography itself. So how do you price risk in a world like this? The key metric is something called the sovereign territory premium. This is the extra value an asset gets simply because it's located in territory that's protected by a superpower's military. In the Arctic, national security isn't just a talking point. It's a direct, measurable factor in how much something is worth. So here are a few real-world examples. You've got companies like Hanwha Ocean building specialized LNG carriers, or Greenland Resources, which is trying to supply the EU with molybdenum, a key ingredient for super-strong steel alloys. These are seen as strategic plays. But at the same time, we're also seeing an institutional retreat. A lot of major banks and insurance companies are backing away from new Arctic oil and gas projects, saying the timelines are too long and the geopolitical risks are just getting too high. But as all these superpowers and investors place their bets, what is the actual cost of all this activity? The Great Thaw comes with a price that you just can't measure in dollars and cents. 4 times. That is how much faster the Arctic is warming compared to the rest of the planet. And this isn't some problem for the distant future. This is a crisis happening right now, in our lifetime. And all this new activity, it's just pouring fuel on the fire. And this activity creates a truly terrifying feedback loop. See, more shipping and industrial work releases what's called black carbon. It's basically soot, which then falls onto the ice. This darkens the surface, making it absorb more sunlight instead of reflecting it. And that, of course, speeds up the melting, which ironically makes it even easier for more ships to come through. It's a vicious cycle that just feeds on itself. Caught right in the middle of all of this are the 500,000 indigenous people who call the Arctic home. Their position is crystal clear and it's powerful. Nothing about us without us. And yet, as superpowers fight for control, their traditions, their livelihoods, their very existence are all being threatened by decisions made thousands of miles away. So, what does this all add up to? Well, by 2026, the region has pretty much split into two, creating what we can call the dual Arctic. Let's break these two zones down. You've got Zone A, which is the territory aligned with NATO. It offers legal stability, but it's also got its own issues with internal fights over who owns what. Then you have Zone B, the Russian-aligned sphere. It offers the potential for some high-yield returns, but it comes with extreme risks of sanctions and even sabotage. So for a shipping company, Zone A means things are predictable, but there's more competition. Zone B offers a faster route, but with the constant fear that your ship could get caught in a political storm. And this leaves us with one final, critical question. The melting ice is, without a doubt, creating new shortcuts that could bring the world closer together. But given the incredibly high-stakes competition we've just walked through, we have to ask, will these new paths lead to a more connected world, or will they become the flashpoints for a new global conflict? The future of the Arctic, and maybe the world, is hanging in the balance.